your potential all-star lineup. Altidore still up top, and we haven't even got into how well he played yet. And then you have Johnson playing left midfield, Donovan playing right midfield, Dempsey right behind Altidore, and then you have Bradley, Jones, then in the back four, Chandler, Bocanegra. I'm going to pick Goodson right now over Onyewu because I just don't know about his health. Even if he's perfect, I really like the way Goodson played. And then Dolo on the right. Of course, Howard. That's not even, you don't even need to say anything about that.
Well, my concern with that back line, they played well. They played very well last night. But the big thing is they could have gotten beat.
Yeah. First half.
Several times. They could have gotten
through
beat
balls.
The Italians were just a step off every time, it seemed, or just shoulder off. Some of those were really close, and they could have gone either way. In all honesty, And we could have had a couple goals put against us that quickly, and that's something to concern ourselves with. Goodson and Boca aren't the fastest of center backs. We just got to watch that high line and make sure the entire back line's communicating and pressing up. Press up.
I agree. I mean, my only real concern is that that Boca continues to get slower as he ages, and then Goodson, he's not a real fast guy to begin with. So we are, there's definitely some insecurity there. But then again, we could still work in Cameron. We could still work in Whitbread. There are other options. Not that Whitbread's is a fast guy. He's more of a Goodson guy kind of player, actually. Cameron, he's maybe a little quicker than Boca. So, there are pluses and minuses for all those guys. And I think the relief is that really our weakness now, we're finding out as we see more and more options pop up all across the field, is our only real huge weakness is we don't really have a whole lot of strikers. We just don't have a lot to pick from.
No. Also, we're pretty safe and secure that not every team in CONCACAF has Perillo that's gonna put those balls on a dime.
Yeah, that's true. No,
you don't have to worry about that.
They don't have Andrea Pirlo. We're probably fine. The other thing, just going through some key points in the game. As you mentioned, defensively, there were some through balls and balls in the air that might have caused us some trouble. We were somewhat fortunate on some of the calls, but then there were a few things that Josie improved on in the second half.
Oh yeah,
that he did in the first half. I kept thinking, how many times, Josie, are you just going to go down when somebody breathes on you?
That's the thing. I've been calling him, and I'm glad that in the second half, I think Klinsmann said, "Hey, Josie, quit being such a Nancy."
Yeah, please.
Play like a big striker, please, because he came out in that second half, fire under his ass. That attempt of drawing a PK.
In the box?
That's what got me.
Yeah, that was Nancy, too.
He fell over. I'm like, oh, Josie, get up.
You're a big dude.
You're a big dude. Come on, play big.
Yeah.
And he did that. We saw him play like that on the goal.
Yeah, I have him down.
Spun it, passed it back, laid it off. A perfect layoff, too, and then Dempsey followed through with it.
And that's what happens when you don't flop. I have Altidore down here. I watched the game twice. 4 flops, 1 call. And the 1 call was of course, free kick that Dempsey took. And it was a rocket, but it was straight at Buffon. So,
yeah. He's not going to put that in.
Yeah. And then, Brack, as I said, did not have a great game. He had one opportunity in the first half where he really could have just dribbled the ball into the box himself. And instead he tried to pass it off to Dempsey. And Dempsey looked at him with, those eyes like, what the are you doing, dude?
Yeah, the ref got those eyes, too, in the second half.
Yeah.
On the corner kick, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, Dempsey was saying to Shea, grow somebody.
Exactly. Well, I thought Shea had his typical 50-50 game. There were times where I was like, oh, why did you do that? But then there were times where he did the stuff he had to do.
Yeah.
He kept possession. He dribbled out of 2-man marking, and laid it off. He wasn't anything special, but he got the job done for the most part. But then again, on the defensive aspect, he got caught out of position quite a few times. There are certain parts of his game that I like, and he has a lot of room to mature. Perhaps a move from FC Dallas would do that. Throw him into the deep end, try that out.
if he keeps starting for the United States over and over again, it's just inevitable that somebody's going to try to grab him up here sooner or later.
Even if it's in a lesser European league, he'll get picked up.
If Klinsmann can get Robbie Rogers to Leeds, then Shea can find his way somewhere else too. But I thought Shea and Williams had some really good moments. Not Shea and Williams, Shea and Johnson had some really good moments together. Mm-hmm. And I thought that on the other side, however, Williams missed quite a few opportunities to hook up with Dolo as Dolo sprinted down the wing. So, again, it's the difference is that Shea understands that position, and Williams has no clue what he's doing quite yet. So that's kind of the difference. But again, you leave Williams in at the end of the game, which I thought was interesting because I would have replaced him with Kleshin instead, or somebody, and left maybe left Shea in and left Johnson in too. But he put Spector in, and I know there was a sigh that went out across the United States men's national team fan, the DTOT crowd too. Everybody's like, "Oh no!" Yeah, well, guess what? Spector risked life and limb.
Literally,
he was
literally,
badass,
multiple times.
Saved Kleshin's ass on a few occasions as well.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because some people quoted him or quoted his play as erratic and not good. He was basically it was like he had to sacrifice himself to recover on defense, but he was sacrificing himself to make up for a lot of other people's failures.
Yeah, right.
I thought Spector had a great game for the short amount of time he was in.
10, 15 minutes. Yeah.
An option off the bench, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah. So. And people I don't think realize how well he's been playing in the championship. And
that plays a big factor into it. He was, when he was with
West Ham. Yeah, West Ham.
He was getting some playing time, but then he was also getting moved around, and now he's finding consistent playing time with Birmingham, and it's just it's a good fit, and you can show it on his game.
No, it absolutely shows that because he's getting so much more playing time, and even West Ham went on a limb last year and last season and said, we're going to start him at center defensive midfield every game for a few games and see how it goes. It went pretty well for him,
Yeah.
Hey, the only interesting thing, because we're probably pretty much done with the review, is that also there was a big article in Yahoo about Chris Medley's the mechanics of soccer and blah 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 in sports, and where Chris Medley basically lays out why soccer analysts and announcers calling soccer games aren't helping new fans, because they're just not telling us why and how things happen. They're just telling us what happened, and that's not helping us understand the game. Well, big article in Yahoo. And, of course, in the article, they actually had Winalda responding to Chris Medley as well as Alexi Lalas. And, of course, they did respond in the way that a lot of people responded, saying, hey, there's just not enough time in a soccer game to lay out what happened, what just happened, because there's no stop and play. And somebody made a really good point. Hey, how about a split screen? So on the left, you still have the play going on the right. You can quickly, in 10 or 15 seconds, describe what happened. And I thought that's not really that hard to do. And as I think you mentioned, the highlight's not even needed, right?
It's not even needed. We talked about this in our show with Chris, is that, as the game's going on, you can just quickly make a 10-second comment. And he used the example of shot by Buttle in the second half of the Slovenia game, where it was kind of a piddly shot, if you will. And they just said, oh, Buttle scuffed that up, but they don't explain what happened. And he went on talking about how, if they would have simply had said, like, oh, Buttle was off balance when he shot that's why he didn't connect with it. That would have been one thing, Yeah. And that doesn't need a replay to be told, you just start describing things,
Right, right. And, just based on that, I'm not sure that the announcing in the last game, except for a few moments, kind of lived up to Chris Medley's hopes.
No, it didn't.
So I don't think that message is really getting through, but I think it's still an important message. And I think just poo-pooing it as easy as Eric did and Alexi did, I wish they would have thought that through a little more, because I think that with the modern technology that we have, a lot more things are possible than we're letting on here.
Well, and to be fair, my initial thought when I watched the clip and we were going to have him on was that, looking at basketball, looking at football, they have these 20-second, 30-second breaks in between plays, or not even 30 seconds for basketball, but more like 5 to 10 seconds, where they have time to pull up the replay and draw on the screen and show everything, and it's you don't have that in soccer. But then again, Chris went into describing exactly what it is. So maybe Eric and Alexi just didn't quite grasp the possibility of what Chris is really aiming at.
No, I don't think so. And then, we didn't bring it. There are things, they're not timeouts in soccer, but there's some slow parts in soccer. They're called goalie kicks. And goalies take...
Especially when Howard was taking a couple of them last night.
Yeah, at the end. It was
for obvious reasons, though.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way, real quick, because this is another thing that came up last night, Ian Darke, and a lot of people were talking about it, seemed to intimate during the game that there was some sort of problem between Landon, Donovan, and Klinsmann, because Landon, again, did not show up for a game. And my thought was, when Klinsmann said, "We're moving on," which is what he said, Klinsmann has been speaking English for a while, and he may not always understand exactly what a statement like that might sound like to other people. Granted, he speaks English very, very well, but I think what we're hearing when Klinsmann says we're moving on, he's basically saying, well, this game, we're going to move on. It doesn't mean there's really a problem between Landon Donovan and Jurgen Klinsmann.
Even where people who have English as their first language, their main language, they even say stuff that comes off sounding like something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, it's not just because it's his second language. Other people do it. And my take on this whole thing is that this is just another game where something unfortunate has happened to Donovan, or something has kept him away from the camp, and he is simply saying, you know what, it is what it is. We're moving on to we're moving on to this game with the players that we have in hand. Yep. He's not saying, oh, you know what, he's out of the equation, because we all know that Klinsmann really likes Donovan.
Yeah.
And exactly. I couldn't imagine anything that has gone on that would have hindered that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been calling him into every camp, and something has happened every time.
Yeah, and besides, he had bronchitis, and I mean, listen,
he gave himself bronchitis. He didn't want to come to the camp, so he gave himself bronchitis.
Even though it was a short trip from Liverpool all the way down. Yeah, I mean, he only. I don't think that was an issue. It would have been a short trip from Liverpool to training camp.
Well, he didn't play in the last Everton game, did he?
No, he didn't, because of bronchitis. Yeah. Right,
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, people have got to drop this whole tinfoil conspiracy theory action thing that everybody's going through. They just need it. They need to see it as it is. He has bronchitis. Get over it.
Yeah, Landon Donovan is the kind of guy who can play soccer every day of every week. And hey, believe me, he did not all of a sudden get bronchitis so he could make sure he was completely fit for the CONCACAF Champions League. I don't think that's what he's going to do. When he gets to play Italy, that's a much bigger stage. I guarantee you. Landon Donovan wanted to play this game, and Jurgen Klinsmann wanted him to. And however, if you've ever had bronchitis, there is no way in hell's bells you can play a soccer game with bronchitis. You will keel over within 10 minutes. All right.
I played 2 soccer games yesterday with common cold. Does that count?
Not really. I played games with common cold. That's okay. And if you ever played hockey during the winter, like I did when I was a kid, you always had a cold or something pouring out of your nose while you're playing hockey.
Because it's fucking cold.
It's goddamn cold. All right, folks. Well, until next time, this has been Brett and Derek for the Straight Red Card. Good night.